Whenever a crisis occurs in the modern world and hundreds of thousands of people are forced to flee their homes, we see the exact same picture. Countries close their borders, politicians argue about quotas, and local residents look at strangers with anxiety and distrust, fearing for their jobs and safety. It is human nature to protect what is yours. The laws of sociology say that mass migration always leads to conflict. But 1,400 years ago, on the Arabian Peninsula, a phenomenon occurred that completely shattered all the laws of psychology and sociology. Hundreds of refugees from Mecca poured into a small city, Yathrib. They had no money, no housing, no jobs. And what did the locals do? They did not build a tent camp for them on the outskirts. They did not give them welfare checks. They opened the doors of their own homes and told the refugees, "Take half of everything we have, half of our property, half of our land, half of our money." Who were these people? How did they manage to build a society based on absolute, unconditional love, which the modern world cannot even imagine? Today we will talk about the Ansars, the helpers of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, about the residents of Medina, whose generosity forever changed the history of mankind. To understand the greatness of the Ansars, you need to know who they were before the arrival of Islam. The city of Yathrib, which would later be called Medina, was inhabited by two large Arab tribes, the Aus and the Khazraj. There was no peace between them. For 120 years, they fought a cruel, endless war of annihilation. Relatives killed relatives, the economy was destroyed, and hatred was absorbed with a mother's milk. It seemed this city was doomed to eternal bloodshed. But one day, several men from the Khazraj tribe traveled to Mecca on business. There they met the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. He read the Quran to them, and these words poured like water onto their parched hearts, exhausted by war. They accepted Islam and returned to their city with a new message. The religion began to spread rapidly, and a miracle happened. The Quran united sworn enemies. The Aus and the Khazraj forgot their century-old enmity and became brothers. And then came the moment of the great migration, the Hijra. The Muslims of Mecca, the Muhajirun, fled from terrible torture. They left behind all their businesses, their homes, and arrived in Medina literally empty-handed. What did the Prophet do, peace and blessings be upon him? He did not create relief funds. He performed an act unequaled in history. He declared the Brotherhood. He would take one Muhajir from Mecca, take one Ansar from Medina, bind their hands together and say, "From this day on, you are brothers in the religion of Allah." And the Ansars took this quite literally. An Ansar would bring a Muhajir into his home and say, "I am one of the richest people here. Here is my house. I divide it exactly in half. Choose the half you like better. Here are my date groves. Take half. Here is my gold. It is now yours." History records cases where the Ansars fought among themselves for the right to house a refugee, and they had to draw lots because everyone wanted to give away their property for the pleasure of God. But the greatness of this story lies not only in the generosity of the Ansars, it also lies in the nobility of the Muhajirun. They did not become dependents who sat on the necks of their new brothers. The brightest example is the story of the Ansar Sa'd ibn Arabi and the Muhajir Abdurrahman ibn Auf. Sa'd brought Abdurrahman to his home and offered him half of his massive fortune. Any modern person would have grabbed this opportunity with both hands. But what did Abdurrahman answer? He smiled and said the famous phrase, "May Allah bless your family and your wealth, O my brother, but simply point me to the market." He refused the free money. Abdurrahman went to the market, started buying cheese and clarified butter wholesale, selling them retail, and thanks to his hard work and the blessing of the Almighty, he soon once again became one of the richest men in Medina. This is exactly how they built an ideal society. The Ansars competed in selfless giving, and the Muhajirun competed in independence and hard work. Years later, Islam achieved victory. Mecca was opened. The 8th year after the Hijrah arrived, and the Muslims won a grueling victory in the Battle of Hunain, capturing colossal, unimaginable spoils of war, thousands of camels, sheep, and silver. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, began to distribute this wealth, and he gave it to recent enemies, to those very Quraysh from Mecca who had accepted Islam only recently. He gave them hundreds of camels to soften their hearts and strengthen their faith. But to the Ansars, those who sheltered him, who shared their bread, who protected him with their own chests in battles, he gave nothing, not a single dirham. Murmurs began among the young Ansars. They said with resentment, "May Allah forgive the messenger. He distributes the spoils to his fellow tribesmen from Mecca, while our blood is still dripping from our swords." When the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, learned about this, he ordered all the Ansars to be gathered in one tent. No one else was allowed to enter. The Prophet entered and delivered a speech that made even the harshest warriors weep. He asked, "O Ansars, did I not come to you when you were astray and Allah guided you? Were you not poor and Allah enriched you? Were you not enemies and Allah united your hearts?" The Ansars wept and replied, "Allah and His Messenger are more generous to us." Then the Prophet spoke words that tore their hearts apart. "O Ansars, are you saddened over the insignificant goods of this world, with which I wanted to attract the hearts of new people, entrusting you to your Islam? Are you not pleased, O Ansars, that other people will return home with sheep and camels, while you will return to your homes with the Messenger of Allah? I swear by the one in whose hand is my soul, if all people went down one valley and the Ansars went down another, I would go down the valley of the Ansars. O Allah, have mercy on the Ansars and the sons of the Ansars and the grandsons of the Ansars." Hearing this, the tough men wept so hard that their beards became soaked with tears. They cried out, "We are pleased with the Messenger of Allah as our share." They understood that camels and gold were but dust. They had received the most precious treasure in the universe. The Ansars proved that humanity is capable of absolute altruism. They gave up everything for people they were seeing for the very first time in their lives, simply because they were united by a common faith in the one God. In the Quran, the Almighty immortalized their great status forever, saying, "They give preference to others over themselves, even if they themselves are in need." In our world, torn apart by borders, greed, and nationalism, the story of the Ansars sounds like a call to action. It reminds us that the true safety and strength of a society are not built on high fences, but on open hearts and a readiness to share. What do you think? Is such a level of selfless brotherhood possible in our modern world? Could we today share our homes with those who need help? Write your honest opinion in the comments. This is a very interesting topic for discussion. Be sure to share this video to remind people of what we can be. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. In the next episode, we will talk about one of the greatest battles in history, the Battle of Badr, about how 313 men changed the map of the world. Peace be upon you, and may the Almighty fill our hearts with generosity.